I can't say another word until I say, Mark, how amazingly you just held this service. I think we're going to have to leave it up to you more often. So I've heard, leading up to this day, I know that you've taken bits of the service before, and you never disappoint. It's been a pleasure teaching you. He's one of the first students I had when I first moved to London, and I guess he just couldn't let go, right? So here we are, and we have to. I want to speak to you today about logic and truth. Some of you may have heard of a particular university in New York whose motto, Torah Umada, declares that this is a place where Torah study and secular pursuits of knowledge coexist. The program is structured such that undergraduate students attend Jewish studies courses in the morning and follow secular pursuits in the afternoons with quite a bit of flexibility regarding the intensity of each. And there are many students who find the morning sessions to be the most important, while the afternoons of humanities and sciences are merely a means to an end, a degree. Others find the mornings of Talmud and Halakha and Jewish history to be an extension of their morning sleep, while they wait to attack the afternoon studies with a full stomach and a voracious appetite. And if I'm being honest, I fell somewhere in between these two extremes. And although I did enjoy my morning classes, I truly loved the philosophy and art courses which related to my chosen studies at this particular university. And so, while our rabbis at Yeshiva University believed their morning sessions were the height of education, the highest we could get, it was during my first session of Introduction to Logic in my final year where Professor Johnson asserted that once you have an understanding of logic, you will look at those who do not as if they are from the Stone Age. And it felt like one of those things that the head of the philosophy department is supposed to say. But having seen the rise of artificial intelligence, which relies on complex logical algorithms, as well as the ever-increasing difficulty in discerning truth and reason from fabrication in the news and media, the professor's words ring out louder than ever. Ours is a world in need of a bit of logic. In declaring the 14th of January to be World Logic Day, yes, it does exist, UNESCO sought to commemorate two mathematicians whose work helped shape the study and application of logic in the 20th century. One of these was Alfred Tarski, a Polish Jew who, despite being an avowed atheist who had converted to Catholicism, was held back in his career because he was born Jewish. And it was only by chance that he left Poland to attend a conference at Harvard University in August 1939, just weeks before a particular Nazi invasion, which actually wiped out most of his family. Only because of that, he survived, and he remained. He's known as the father of truth. Tarski sought to define truth in language and hoped to bring an elegance to logical equations which can be seen in many other areas of mathematics. His contemporary, Kurt Gödel, was a successful Austrian mathematician whose career was also affected under Nazi rule, not because he was Jewish, he wasn't. It was because he had worked happily with Jews. And soon he decided to flee for Princeton, where he struck up a friendship with none other than Albert Einstein. And Gödel's incompleteness theorems, which he publicized in 1931, demonstrated, it's a bit complex, that in any mathematical model, there will be some function that is true, yet ultimately unprovable within the model. Okay. That's just to say that there's no mathematical theory of everything which can be both provable and logically true. Sounds like it goes against the point. Almost simultaneously, Tarski published his undefinability theorem. Different name, same idea. It also sought to demonstrate that mathematical logic is limited, for truth cannot be defined arithmetically within the system of arithmetic. I imagine that's pretty frustrating for mathematicians if they hold by that theory. Suffice it to say that these two mathematicians helped open the doors to the notion that truth does not necessarily obey the rules of the system it seeks to define. Truth can exist outside of logic. For Gödel, this concept led him to a religious understanding that Tarski and many of his contemporaries never accepted: the belief in a personal God and in an afterlife. Gödel's personal belief placed God as that true statement which exists outside of the universe and is thereby unprovable within it, not bound by the universe's laws. He had an unwavering faith that religion itself was good and can actually be arrived at through pure reasoning. Organized religions, on the other hand, not so good in his eyes. Perhaps Gödel's opinions regarding world religions relate to the rigidity and counter-scientific notions which many traditional faith practices espouse, where it's common to find those whose hearts are hardened to any truth save that which is defined within the faith itself. If God says it's true, it must be true. It's proven within it, I imagine. When reason cannot sway a person to even consider the possibility of another way of thinking, there is little else to be done. Conversation ends. Not so in our parashah, however, and you're going to hear Mark read that and explain that tomorrow. Bar Mitzvah, part 2. Despite being shown time and again that God is the supreme power and desires liberation for the Israelites, Pharaoh ends each encounter with his heart having been hardened by God, refusing to give in to the divine demands issued through Moses and Aaron. This plays out again and again, and in each instance, Pharaoh is unable to break free from his own narrative enough to show God that he is truly ready to submit. Pharaoh's words say, "I and my people are evil." Notice he wraps his people up in there, not very nice. "And God is truth." However, the very fact that his heart is even susceptible to be hardened by an external force indicates that he's not yet ready to see God as the truth which exists outside of his own logical understanding of the world. In Pharaoh's world, Pharaoh is the supreme deity. World Logic Day, 14th of January. Put it on your calendars. It celebrates the notion that reasoning and the pursuit of truth are central to what it means to be human. But some of logic's greatest minds have demonstrated that truth and belief can exist within that same system, with a caveat. It is only when they are connected by what perhaps I might call a lev chadash, a new type of heart, liberated by the notion that reason and the willingness to accept the limits of our own understanding may very well lead us to the answers we seek. You may note that the name of this synagogue, the liberal Jewish synagogue, is also Kahal Kadosh Lev Chadash, the holy community of the new heart. Reference to Ezekiel, but I cannot unsee it within our text. Given that so much is unknowable, perhaps this Shabbat gives us the opportunity to embrace some of the incompleteness in our own comprehension of the world, those indefinable variables which give rise to surprises and unexpected encounters. there may be some truth we discover which seems to defy logic, yet makes our lives just that little bit more meaningful. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with our service on page 5.